Welcome back to Destination Pro Wrestling. My name is Ango, at Tango with Ango on Twitter and Instagram. Just want to say thank you for stopping by. Hopefully you all had a nice holiday weekend, despite the circumstances being pretty different for everybody now this time around. I know a lot of us probably couldn't celebrate with our families and friends, but nonetheless, things are changing, especially big time for pro wrestling. So we're going to talk about it. The Rock has praised AEW, which is not necessarily a shocker, but it is good news for those who keep up with pro wrestling because obviously having the endorsement from the legendary Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is quite important. So we are going to talk about that, but we're also going to talk a little bit about WWE and AEW now becoming essential in the United States. There's a couple of loopholes that they were able to get around. We're going to talk about what this means for WWE and AEW. So with that being said, guys, just go ahead and click that subscribe button. If you guys want more daily content, news, rumors, all that good stuff, if you guys ring the bell and you guys click that notification symbol every time, right? You click subscribe, you click the bell, you're going to get notified hopefully every time. That's what YouTube says, okay? YouTube says if you do it, you're going to get notified, and I'm going to appreciate it a lot, because sometimes YouTube really doesn't push out the videos, and we all know that right now it's a tough time for creators. But for me, it's all about creating content, so that's what we're going to do. There's a lot of stuff to talk about, but I really want to start off with WWE pretty much being named an essential business. In the state of Florida, state in the United States, has named any sports or entertainment with athletes, closed personnel, they are able to put on their show. So it is like a loophole that is allowed through the state shutdown. So WWE, AEW, MLW, Impact, whatever company who wants to go to Florida and produce their show, as long as there is a closed set, they are able to put on the show. This is how WWE was actually able to have Raw live. Which, by the way, I personally thought was a good episode, despite all the weird circumstances that are happening. But the reason why this is important is because now we're really going to see how much these wrestling companies care. For an example, Court Bauer from MLW has already said that despite the loophole, he has no plans to move his show to Florida. He has no plans to put his wrestlers or any of his personnel or their families at risk due to this pandemic. So because of that, we now know that AEW and WWE and some of these other companies might have a different opinion on that, because MLW is the first one publicly to kind of go out there and say, hey, this is, we're not going to do it. WWE, as you guys know, has gone live, and they continue to go live now. They will continue to go live from the Performance Center. AEW has about a month or so worth of pre-taped content. So the idea is right now AEW hasn't really made a statement on this because they have their shows planned out. They have it all booked and written and edited, and everything's ready for TV. But we don't know how long this pandemic is actually going to affect people. So it's going to be really interesting to see what AEW's response is. Does Tony Khan and Cody Rhodes kind of make a decision in which they just shut down the show temporarily, or do they just go back to doing tapings for a little while? Nobody knows how long this pandemic will last, so I think that's the interesting part. Obviously, time will tell. Now, WWE going live, Impact Wrestling is doing tapings at some point in the near future. They're going to do tapings with a closed set. It's just really, really interesting to see how different these companies all kind of, in a way, they're all pretty similar because they all have a business to run. These wrestlers got to get paid, obviously, but it is really interesting to see how things are going, because at this rate, the one thing that I think is truly interesting is a company like MLW, which I would assume desperately needs to be putting out more content. They have a good show. Maybe financially they're going to be all right. But that is kind of the scary thing, because at this point, do you choose money or the health of your employees? Now, the reason why I bring this up is because there's a lot of people who give WWE shit for this, but you got to keep in mind, it's not just WWE that's in this situation, and it's not just wrestling either. I mean, literally, if you get in a car right now, the roads might be empty. You might drive to a store that realistically shouldn't be open at a time like this. There's things that they may offer, but they're not essential to anything. So despite WWE and AEW for having the show continue, just understand that there's a lot of businesses and employers out there who are not really essential to everyday life, but the show is still going on for everybody. So I just kind of thought that was very interesting altogether. MLW kind of talking about it, going public. They have no plans to come back just yet. Obviously, hopefully this all ends sooner rather than later, but we just don't know. With AEW, they have a pre-taped show. With WWE, they have a live show. So ultimately, we're going to see what kind of happens. On to the next story. The Rock praises AEW. During an Instagram live session, The Rock was asked about AEW and whether or not he watches it. Basically, he says yes, he watches it, and he's very happy for the success of that company because it creates hunger. Now, I really like this statement from The Rock for one really, really big reason, and then there's some like small ones, but the biggest one is The Rock knows that no matter how big and essentially how essential he is to WWE, he knows that the industry as a whole, the bigger picture, he knows it's important. So therefore, spreading a little bit of positive light on AEW is really awesome. The other things that you guys got to know with The Rock when it comes to praising AEW is as long as The Rock doesn't show up on AEW television, The Rock will never have a burnt bridge with WWE. And I think deep down inside, he knows he's able to get away with stuff like this because WWE, no matter what, would never want The Rock to go to arguably their biggest competition. So very, very interesting comments from The Rock. I think some people are so shocked that The Rock would praise a WWE competitor, but when you're a wrestler, you don't really... I think the fans have taken an approach where they've kind of picked sides, and I just think that's kind of the problem at this point. I think that realistically it kind of been an issue. I don't know why we pick sides as fans. I personally don't. I like both companies, but when you're a wrestler, I don't think that's the way you roll. I think as a wrestler, you want the wrestling economy to flourish. And right now, truth be told, it needs every sort of flourishing, it needs to blossom at this point because a lot of small businesses are going to be taking a very, very large hit. At least in the United States, economically, nobody really knows what's going to happen. And we all try to be positive and stuff. So as far as wrestling goes, if you guys are a fan of wrestling or maybe you're a viewer and you want to become a wrestler, you want this industry to be very, very healthy for you to get inside. Retail will probably go down very significantly in the next few months. But somebody who, works in the wrestling industry, if they are able to be on a TV show, which they get paid for, I mean, clearly that's going to be very, very huge for them. And that's kind of why deep down inside, whether you like AEW or NXT or whatever it may be, you always want both of them to be somewhat successful because then you kind of have options, obviously, for one, but two, you kind of get the opportunity to really just look at things differently, I guess. My point is this. I like AEW, I like NXT. I don't make one priority over the other, right? So when people say, ratings are a big deal, there's a lot of people out there who are like me. Maybe I watch NXT live one week and then I watch AEW on the DVR. That's my point. It's not shocking to me that The Rock is a fan of AEW, and it's not shocking to me that The Rock even enjoys wrestling outside of WWE. The real question is, did he ever watch Lucha Underground? That, I think, is a very, very interesting concept, and I've seen people tweet that as well, but Lucha Underground was such a different take on wrestling that I think hearing what The Rock would say about that would be very, very interesting, just because he comes from such a totally different wrestling background. Historically, the way the way The Rock was wrestling on TV, it's completely different to what you see now on Raw, SmackDown, NXT, AEW, Impact. I mean, the style is different. So I guess it's always cool to see somebody like The Rock who, theoretically, a lot of people would say he might be out of touch, but he's not, obviously. It's just, it's kind of cool to see somebody who comes from that background and that lineage of pro wrestling history, and to see that he enjoys something cool. I mean, it's not shocking to me, but I'm shocked more at the fact that other people are shocked about it. So ultimately, The Rock praising AEW, not really a concern. I think it's pretty cool. I would like to see more people step up and do that because I think AEW deserves that. But nonetheless, it's really just interesting stuff happening in the pro wrestling world, guys. So I want to know what you guys think in the comment section down below. And don't forget, click that subscribe button. If you guys click that subscribe button and ring the bell, like I said, YouTube's going to push out the content to you. That's what they say. That's what YouTube says, and I'm going to keep bringing it up probably every video because honestly, right now it's a very interesting time for YouTube creators. Advertising is very, very different these days. Um, we do this because we like doing this, I guess. And I'm without a job for a couple of weeks, so I'm just gonna keep making content, keep talking. We're gonna do some cool stuff. I'm launching a second channel very, very soon. I don't know, man. Let's just kind of have fun, see what happens, guys. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. And thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time.